Good early morning to those in the Philippines, Hong Kong, China, Vietnam, etc. Today we are going to be covering Typhoon Ragasa, also known as Nando, in the Philippines. And if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask them in the chat, and I will go over them later in this live stream. If you're watching this live stream after it goes live, you can ask questions in the comments, and I will answer them in the next update. Right now, I am just sharing this stream, and then we will get started. So again, this update is mainly going to be focusing on Nando, or Ragasa, but we will also briefly touch in on the system threatening Japan, the one threatening Myanmar, those storms. Alright. Oh, whoops. Okay, thank you for that, for the help with letting me know about that. Nando. Thank you. Alright, yes, okay, the thumbnail's wrong. Don't really have time to fix that, but I think pretty much people get the idea of what the name of the storm is. Alright, so time to share this on Facebook. That's where most of my Philippine followers are from. And I will also share it to Blue Sky. Already streaming on X. Thank you for pointing that out, though, in the chat. Alright, so let's get into it. Okay, there's a lot of people here now. Alright, so we are going to be covering Typhoon, which is likely now a Category 1 typhoon, Ragasa, also known as Nando, in the Philippines. The system is expected to intensify, and here is the latest graphic I've made and the forecast in terms of impacts in cone. Here we can see it is currently a Category 1, expected to become a Cat 2 within 12 hours, and a Cat 3 in 24 hours, and a Cat 4 within 36 hours, before it continues to intensify into a super typhoon, before eventually peaking at around hour 60, or just before, and then it gradually weakens, but still remains a powerful major typhoon by the time it nears Hong Kong and Guangdong province of China. Then it moves inland, or just through Guangdong province there, enters the Gulf of Tonkin, I believe, as a tropical storm. That is the current forecast. Again, though, I want to point out that if it moves to the north here, impacts will not be occurring in parts of Hainan Island, but if it moves to the south, it could possibly bring major impacts, but at least moderate impacts. So the cone of uncertainty is quite large here as to where the center could go, and it could be a weakening storm over Hong Kong, or it could be a major typhoon reaching Hong Kong and the parts of western Guangdong province. It could be striking Hainan Island as a Category 2 typhoon, but we are quite certain that it is going to make a landfall. Alright, let's get started now on the impacts. Now this green shaded area, which includes parts of the Sakishima Islands, the entirety of Taiwan, parts of Fujian province, and parts of most of southern China, including Guangdong and Guangxi province, and also northeastern Vietnam, are in that area of marginal impacts, including parts of the Philippines, including mainly the central Philippines, but majority of Luzon there. Those areas are mainly under the gun for rainfall out of the system, especially for parts of the Philippines, although some of these areas in parts of Vietnam are going to be due to wind impacts as well as a possibility. Now, there is also slight impacts which are possible for the eastern half of Taiwan and also southern Fujian province, majority of Guangdong province, and southern Guangxi province, and far northeastern Vietnam, the entirety of Hainan Island, parts of Mindoro, the western portion of that, and the western portion of Luzon and the northern portion. So this would be around central Luzon, Zambales, and northern Luzon right there. All of these areas could experience heavy rainfall, and some of these areas could experience the threat of wind if it moves on the northern end of that cone or if it moves on the southern end. So this is a combination of wind and rain impacts for that, but majority of it is rain. Now looking at the possibility or the moderate impacts, that's the colors in orange there, probably the eastern third of Taiwan in that, mainly due to flooding, and parts of Guangdong province and parts of far southeastern Guangxi province and northeastern Hainan Island, all in that moderate impact, and also the far western part of Mindoro and northern Luzon in that shaded area, moderate impacts. Again, a majority of this is going to be in the rain in this area, in parts of Taiwan, or these are going to be in the form of rain, whereas the impacts for parts of northern Luzon and looking into Guangdong province, basically China and Hong Kong, that's a mixture of rain and wind. Looking at the possibility of major impacts now, we do include again northern Luzon in that and eastern Taiwan, and also parts of Hong Kong and very coastal Guangdong province. Now the impacts for northern Luzon, that is going to be due to wind impacts more so than rain. The impacts for eastern Taiwan, that will be due to rain. And the impacts along Hong Kong and Guangdong province will likely be wind. And again, it's a possibility, meaning we're not sure of it, but it is possible that they could be getting hit by a major typhoon within the next 4 days. For mainly talking about Hong Kong and Guangdong province, it is a possibility northern Luzon could get struck by it. And also for parts of Taiwan, they could see up to 1 to 2 feet of rain. So that's another concern out of this system. Oh shoot, hold on. I need to share this stream somewhere else. All right, now we're going to get into the possibility of extreme impacts. These are the areas that could see catastrophic impacts out of it. The far northern coast of Luzon there, and also the Batanes, or the Babuan group of islands, and the southern Batanes Island, the southern one out of those two islands, could see extreme and catastrophic impacts if the system does try to make a run for Category 5 status. The northernmost island of the Batanes Islands, that's in more so major impacts are possible. Or wait, no, not the Batanes Islands are not in that extreme category, excuse me. It's the Babuan group of islands in the far northern tip of Luzon. The the Batanes Islands, the southern one is in the major category there, and the northernmost island is in the major possible category there. So, now that we got that out of the way, let's go more in depth on the storm, starting off with, or no, excuse me, let me go for the global view of tropics right now, since we do have a lot going on. We have 5 tropical cyclones active right now. Let's start with Gabrielle. Gabrielle is currently a moderate tropical storm, and it could make a run for major hurricane status as it moves to the northeast. Should miss Bermuda and should go out to sea, hopefully. There is a tropical wave in the North Atlantic there, mainly in the main development region, which could develop by the time it starts reaching the western MDR or southwestern Atlantic, only giving it about a 10% chance, and that's in the 6 to 7 day range. In the Eastern Pacific, we have 96E, which is running out of time, only at a 20% chance of development, and we have 97E here with a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours and an 80% chance over the next 7 days. The system could try to make a run for hurricane or major hurricane status, but it's a little bit too far to nail down the details on that. Now, looking in the Western Pacific, we have Neoguri here, which is a typhoon now. Currently estimated at around 85 miles an hour, so mid-range Category 1. This system will be reaching a fork in the road, and it will be deciding if it goes northeast out to sea or starts meandering more to the west. If it meanders more to the west, this could threaten parts of Japan, the Ryukyu Islands, Sekishima Islands, Taiwan, eastern China, and the Korean Peninsula. So let's hope it curves out to sea, but if it doesn't, you should be expecting more updates from me over the coming week or so on that system. Also, we have Tropical Depression Mitag, I believe is how you pronounce it, moving inland into China and should dissipate over the next 24 hours. We, of course, have Typhoon Ragasa here, which is expected to become at least a Category 4 typhoon as it nears the Luzon Strait. Eventually, or, of course, we covered where that system is going. And unfortunately, we have another disturbance after that here with a 40% chance of development in the next 7 days. It does look like that this will be another signal that could threaten the Philippines, including Manila. Currently, the ensembles want it going across central and mainly the northern two-thirds of the Philippines is where it's targeting, so that does include Manila. And in the North Indian Ocean, we do have a tropical depression, undesignated, um, with winds of around 35 miles an hour. We are currently code purple for Typhoon Ragasa, but we are also code yellow for Neoguri, Mitag, the North Indian Ocean system, and Gabrielle. So a lot going on. All right. Now, looking at the satellite imagery of Ragasa here, we can see it's starting to develop an eye now. We have convective burst all around the center there, and we're starting to see that nascent eye, showing it is intense and it is organizing now. And we can see this shrimp-like structure of it. It is wrapped up sheer, most of this convection here, and it is having good outflow as well. You can see it fanning out over here on both sides, north and south. So really, it is getting better organized now. It isn't getting as sheared as much, and so we're starting to see this quick development now. And looking at infrared imagery, we can see those convective bursts more clearly, all firing around the center. So the system is now starting to vertically stack its core. Looking at the microwave pass, this is from a couple hours ago. You can see that eye there, the eye wall around it as well, and these convective bursts are helping to stack that up vertically more. And now looking at the sea surface temperatures they are in around, or it's in around 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, or no, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius waters, so very warm. And the oceanic heat content, or the tropical cyclone heat potential, is quite high right there. And it's going to be tracking over that, which could help for it to explosively intensify. So again, we could see not just a bare minimum Cat 5 out of this. We could see a pretty strong Cat 5. Alright, now looking at the distances from certain places, it is roughly around 780 kilometers away from the Cagayan Valley, roughly around 830 kilometers away from the Babuin Group of Islands, roughly 860 kilometers from where it's forecasted to make landfall, roughly 900 kilometers away from the Batanes Islands, roughly 1100 kilometers away from Taiwan, roughly around 940 kilometers away from Manila, roughly around 1,500 kilometers away from the Guangdong and Fujian province of China, roughly around 1,700 kilometers away from Hong Kong, and roughly around 2,000 kilometers away from where it's forecasted to make landfall in western Guangdong province, and same number from Hainan Island. So the major cities that will likely get impacts from it is definitely Santa Ana, and the entirety of the Babuin Group of Islands. Basco could see major impacts out of this. We'll see how closely it tracks. Now let's take a look at some of the model data here. This is the European run, showing it becoming a major typhoon by the time it reaches the Luzon Strait. Now keep in mind these models won't do that great on its peak intensity, but it does show the fact that it will reach major typhoon status there. And then before making landfall near Hong Kong in western Guangdong province, just west of Hong Kong as a major typhoon, before entering the Gulf of Tonkin as a tropical storm and impacting Vietnam. Looking at the American run here, we can see it becoming a major typhoon and getting pretty close to Taiwan there. This is on the northern end of the solution, slamming into the Batanes Islands there, before eventually making landfall east of Hong Kong in eastern Guangdong province. This will weaken it quicker, and you don't see any impacts in Vietnam or Hainan Island if this case verifies, but the impacts will be much worse for parts of Hong Kong and eastern Guangdong province. Looking at the German run on this system, it does have it becoming a major typhoon in Category 5 on this run, before eventually reaching Hong Kong and making landfall just to the east of Hong Kong there. Keep in mind, it threads the needle there between the Babuan group of islands and the Batanes Islands, right through there. Stays a major typhoon, category 3 or 4, by the time it makes landfall in China. Again, though, no impacts in Hainan Island if this case verifies. We can also see it has Neoguri becoming a category 5. That's an interesting solution. Looking at the Canadian run, it does have the system also becoming a major typhoon, but skimming the coast of southern Taiwan there before making landfall in Hong Kong as a typhoon. And then it moves inland into Guangdong, further into Guangdong and Guangxi provinces before dissipating. Let's see if any of the other model runs show that next system that well. No, this one doesn't show it that well. The American run, let's look at this. You can see it there becoming a typhoon impacting parts of central Philippines. And if we look at the German run beyond the 5-day range, you can see a broad area of low pressure there. Nothing much with that. And Neoguri goes towards these Ryukyu Islands. Looking at the Canadian run here, it does have it becoming a tropical storm. Potentially typhoon as it nears Taiwan. It's a little bit far out, though, to say for sure. Now, looking at the European ensembles here, you can see the spread between Taiwan and the Philippines, Luzon, the Luzon Strait there. And then it gets quite uncertain, does it? Because the southernmost solution has it slamming southern Hainan Island, and the northernmost solution has it entering by the Guangdong, Fujian province's borders. There, we'll see. Generally, though, the average has it just to the west of Hong Kong. Now, we can also see two other features. First, I want to point out Neoguri here, how you can see that fork in the road with some of them moving to the northeast, some moving to the west. If it moves to the west there, you could see why it would be a problem for parts of Japan, the Ryukyu Islands, and the Korean Peninsula. As eventually another trough will try to drag it out, pull it to the northeast. If this one doesn't do it, then if it doesn't get evacuated off to the northeast from that one, then it's going to try to find another one. And unfortunately, that could make it slam into Japan. Now, you also may have noticed that there's another disturbance right here that is going to be our next system that we marked with a 40% chance of development over the next 7 days. And you can see it could slam into the Philippines as a tropical storm, typhoon, or even major typhoon. It's a little bit far out to say for sure what's going to happen out of it. Now, looking at a more closer look at Ragasa, or Nando, on its potential track amongst the Euro ensembles, we can see it's pretty split as to where it's going to go, if it's going to move to the north and impact parts of southern Taiwan there, if it slams into Guangdong province there, or if it moves towards Hainan Island and then on to Vietnam. So there is still a large amount of spread, especially in the Luzon Strait. We don't know which island it's going to target specifically. That's why we have this cone of uncertainty as to where it could strike. But really, the uncertainty is a little bit greater than that cone. It could move even closer to Taiwan, but generally looks like it's going to go towards the Babuan group of islands, is my belief at least. Going back to this, again, the main landfall location looks to be just west of Hong Kong, right there. But this could deliver some pretty dangerous surge to Hong Kong and the central Guangdong province. Alright, and looking beyond that here at the Western Pacific Basin, we can see the problem for Japan out of Neoguri here, and we also can see the next system of with a 40% chance of development. Looking at the American ensembles, they are pretty far more to the north there, with some of them slamming into Taiwan, and generally most of them stay away from making landfall in northern Luzon. But they do impact the Babuan group of islands, and mainly the Batanes Islands on this run, before impacting Hong Kong and eastern Guangdong province and western Guangdong province. Not really many of them show it impacting Hainan Island. Also here we can see that it's again a 50-50 split for Neoguri if it goes to the northeast or if it meanders towards Japan. And we also have that disturbance there with a 40% chance of development popping up on the American ensembles as well. Looking at the American ensembles on here, we can see Ragasa there, or Ragasa, impacting parts in between southern Taiwan and the northernmost tip of Luzon. Pretty spread out this far out. Looking at the European AI model in the longer range here, we can see that it does have Neoguri going to the northeast, and it does have that system possibly becoming a severe tropical storm before impacting Luzon, potentially seeing some impacts in Manila there, before eventually meandering into the South China Sea and impacting Vietnam and Hainan Island. We'll see if this verifies. Now, I do want to cover the HAFS model run on this system, because I think it is doing a pretty decent job of handling what it was going to do, when it was going to wrap around the convection there. If I go back, it's a little bit weaker than initially forecasted. That's why some of the models have been downtrended, but it's still forecasting a Category 5, which would bring catastrophic and extreme impacts to wherever it makes landfall. So let's cover this. If I go out in time, and this would be on, let me see, we are at 8 p.m. Today is Friday my time, and that would be Saturday your time in the Philippines. So this would be 8 a.m. on Saturday. Still a typhoon there, wrapping the convection and thunderstorms all around the center, starting to develop a core. If we go towards 8 p.m. on Saturday, this is Saturday night, we can see the core now continuing to develop, getting closer to Cat 1 or high-end Cat 1 or low-end Cat 2 status at this time. Going towards Sunday morning, we can see, again, nearing major typhoon status at this point, continuing to get that core better organized. And if we go further in time, this would be around Sunday night. Now it's likely a major typhoon at the status. The northeastern eye wall is intact there, and some of the outer bands are likely already impacting the Philippines. We can't see it on this high zoom, but if we go farther out in time, we can see some of those bands impacting Luzon, the Batanes Islands, the Babuan group of islands. This would be on Monday morning, seeing some of those impacts start to happen on those islands. Going towards Monday night, Monday evening, Monday afternoon or Monday evening is when it's expected to make landfall, at least on this run, for those islands. This one has it impacting the Batanes Islands, and Basco gets a major beating out of this. But as you can see, the rain bands are going to be impacting well more than just the Luzon Strait, with the northern parts of Luzon getting in on some of those heavy rainfall totals, and Taiwan getting in on a potential tornado threat, I heard. So that's another concern to be looking out for. But as well, that there will be constant rainfall due to topographic lifts there, due to the mountains on the eastern side of Taiwan, which could lead to tremendous rainfall totals. See, continuing off where we left off here, this would be Monday night at that point. Going further, this would be Tuesday morning. You can see some of those outer rain bands starting to impact China and Hong Kong. And we go towards Tuesday, this would be Tuesday night. You can see some of those inner bands now starting to reach China, mainly Guangdong province there. Hong Kong, they're getting in on the rain shield. And we go further in time here. This would be, I believe, Wednesday morning. Now you can see some of those bands, and this could be another tornado threat for parts of Hong Kong, parts of eastern Guangdong province. This still has it as a Category 4, Category 5 typhoon at this time. And going even further in towards, this would be around Wednesday night, I believe, staying south of Hong Kong, at least on this run. And we go further one last time into Thursday morning, beginning to approach western Guangdong province as a major typhoon. So that's a look at the timing right now over the next 5 days or so. This is at least on the HAFS run. And if we take a look at the wind that it could be delivering, anything in green there is tropical storm force winds. So if we zoom out and take a look at it on here, we can see just how expansive those winds will likely be. There could be some tropical storm force winds in the Sakishima Islands, and majority of Taiwan could get in that. And you can see as well, parts of the monsoon there and thunderstorms could impact parts of Manila as well. Right there, Manila could see tropical storm force winds out of it. And typhoon force winds could get close to Taiwan and parts of northern Luzon there as it continues expanding its wind field. You can see tropical storm force winds and likely typhoon force winds impacting parts of China and Hong Kong, even if it doesn't make a direct landfall. Look at that, that's the coloring in purple typhoon force winds there. And then Thankfully, it meanders more to the south on this run, so it doesn't get the major typhoon force winds, at least on this run. But as we can see on this, major typhoon force winds happening on the Batanes Islands, at least on this run. And other runs want it impacting the Babuin group of islands as a major typhoon. Some of them want it slamming into southern Taiwan, some of them into northern Luzon. It's still uncertain. We'll continue to get better details over the coming days. Alright, now I believe I was going to show something here. Yes, rainfall totals. Let's get into that. This is the European run over the next 5 days. Just want to clarify that before I get into these rainfall totals. Let's start out with Manila and Quezon City here. Rainfall totals of around 120 millimeters. Parts of western Mindoro could see 270 millimeters of rain. If we go farther north into, I believe this is Ilocos Norte, rainfall totals of around 200 millimeters. This may be wrong in terms of where or what province that is. Parts of the Cagayan Valley, though, could see up to 150 millimeters of rain. On this run, showing the Babuin group of islands getting anywhere between 250 to 350 millimeters of rain. The Babuin group of islands, that's the Babuin group of islands. The Batanes Islands could see around 300 to 400 millimeters of rain. Eastern Taiwan could see devastating rainfall totals of upwards of 400 millimeters plus of rain on the eastern side. Northwestern side could see only around 10 millimeters, and Taipei maybe around 70 millimeters. The Sakushima Islands could get around 75 to 100 millimeters of rain. Eastern Guangdong Province could see up to 150 millimeters, with around central Guangdong Province getting in at around 250 millimeters. Hong Kong could see 190 millimeters of rain, and wherever it makes landfall could see 200 millimeters of rain or higher. All right, that is just the one European run. If we take a look at the American run now, we can see parts of western Luzon, they're getting over 400 millimeters of rain. If this were to shift just somewhat more to the southeast, there could be catastrophic impacts, or at least major impacts, for parts of Manila out of this. So this is, and you may be wondering, why is this happening? Well, it's due to the monsoon here. If the low is located right, or let me use a different color. If the low is located, and that's not great either. Here, if the low is located right around here, pretty much it is a counterclockwise rotation here. And what that does is it brings the monsoon here, a bunch of rain or a bunch of ocean here, a bunch of moisture moving it in towards the western Philippines, and that will also include Metro Manila. Yes. But looking further to the north, the Babuin group of islands here gets in at around 100 to 300 millimeters of rain, and the Batanes Islands gets in at around 400 to 500 millimeters of rain. Eastern Taiwan could see another, again on this run, devastating 400 millimeters plus of rainfall. And looking inland into parts of Guangdong and Fujian provinces, around 100 to 200 millimeters of rain. Alright. Now looking at the German run of this system, we can see lower totals in Manila on this run, generally around 100 millimeters. Parts of western Mindoro could see around 150 millimeters of rain, and parts of Ilocos Norte here, around 300 millimeters of rain are possible. The Babuin group of islands could see around 300 to 400 millimeters of rain, maybe even higher, upwards of 500 millimeters are possible. The Batanes Islands could see around 200 to 300 millimeters of rain, and eastern Taiwan here getting in at an awful upwards of, let's see how high that rainfall total is, over 400, over 500 millimeters of rain are going to be possible along the eastern coast of Taiwan. The Sakushima Islands gets in at around 50 millimeters of rain. The Fujian Guangdong border gets in at around 150 millimeters of rain. Guangdong province along the coast gets in at around 200 to 300, and Hong Kong gets in over 300 millimeters of rain on this run. Looking further inland, rainfall totals in at around 200 millimeters, and notice how Hainan Island on this run only gets in at around 15 millimeters. Nothing much, just because on these model runs they slam into Hong Kong or just to the west. Norte, okay. Nice. Just making sure I was pronouncing that correctly. Right, let's look at some of these other model runs here. This is the access model over the next 5 days, showing parts of western Mindoro could see over 580 millimeters of rainfall, nearing 600 millimeters. Yeah, over 600 millimeters by Santa Cruz. That could be devastating for those regions, and parts of western Luzon could get an over 400 millimeters of rain. Manila on this run gets in at around 100 to 200 millimeters of rain, depending on where you're located at. So again, this is due to that monsoon there, pushing all that moisture along the western coast. Now, I believe there's another model run here that may be able to show Taiwan. This is only the next 2 days of rainfall, 2.5 days rainfall, and this is already showing 300 millimeters of rain. They'll likely get another day at least of heavy rainfall, so you could easily see rainfall totals reaching 500 millimeters in some of those areas, at least on this run, if we extended it out further. Right, lastly, going over the latest Pagasa forecast here. It does have it becoming a typhoon by this afternoon, before eventually becoming a super typhoon on Monday afternoon. Then staying a super typhoon, and it will likely make landfall sometime between Monday 2 p.m. and Tuesday 2 a.m., looking like right in between the two. So that would be at around, let's see, doing some quick math in my head, I believe 8 p.m. Monday, at least on the latest Pagasa forecast, when it could be making landfall. It could be making landfall as early as 2 p.m. If it makes landfall in northern Luzon there. Beyond that, it remains a typhoon in Wednesday morning and Thursday morning. And it looks like Thursday early morning is when it could be making landfall just west of Hong Kong. Again, it's quite uncertain. It could be making landfall by the Fujian Guangdong province border there, or it could be making landfall all the way in Hainan Island. This is a large area that it could be striking. So a lot can change, and I will continue to keep you updated as to where is the latest target zone. Alright, now the latest Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast cone. This may be out of date. I'm going to see if there's an updated version of it. Nope, they have it at 55 knots, which is a little bit of an underestimate. It's likely around 65 to 70 knots now, which means it's ahead of schedule. It's expected to reach 70 knots in 6 hours or so, and it's likely already around that range. Beyond that, it's expected to reach Category 2 status in around, this would be around 18 hours or so, before reaching nearly Category 3 status, and then finally reaching Cat 3, and then finally Cat 4. Again, it could become a Cat 4 well before well before this point, somewhere in between these two. And we could see a super typhoon, at least on this forecast, but not directly forecasting it. Eventually, though, it does weaken below major typhoon status as it nears Hong Kong, but still remains a typhoon as it moves west. The areas that could see tropical storm force winds do include Metro Manila there, and most of Luzon. It does include parts of the western Sakishima Islands, the entirety of Taiwan, parts of Fujian, Guangdong, and Guangxi provinces, and parts of northeastern Vietnam. This is a little bit out of dates, so I'd extend that a little bit more to the west, and it also includes Hainan Island. On this forecast, let me just see if I missed anything that people want to point out. Alright. People in my Discord server just mentioning web cameras and things like that. Just seeing if I'm missing anything. Anyways, now let's get to some of your questions. So yes, it's Nando, not Nanda. Yep, I got that. Fix the thumbnail there. I wouldn't say it looks iffy right now. I'd say it is looking quite solid on the latest satellite imagery here. It is beginning to rapidly intensify. We can see that eye start to pop out on the infrared imagery. It's only beginning to fire more convection around the eye wall. Did this break or something? Why can't I see a new frame? Let me make sure that this is still live. Yeah, it's still live. Okay, I don't know why infrared imagery is not showing anymore. I can zoom in more on the mesosector imagery. I'm hoping that the mesosector is on the storm. There it is. You can see that eye right there. Overall, I'd say the storm is doing quite well. This was pretty much forecasted by the models, the higher resolution models, for a while now, that this is how it would begin to intensify. Uh, Eileen says, I think the typhoon will peak at 175 miles an hour. That certainly is possible. I believe it's going to peak at around 150 miles an hour. Probably anywhere between 130 and 185 miles an hour. I think it could reach. It could definitely reach higher than that. I think that the max, the ceiling is probably around 200 miles an hour. Um, yeah, Typhoon Lover asks, will this make a run for Category 5? Definitely. I think the AI rapid intensification models are saying it's around a 55% chance of it reaching 120 knots, and 140 knots is Cat 5. So, based on that, I do feel like there's at least probably a fifth chance, like 20% chance it tries to get to Category 5 status. Even if it's at least 10%, that's still it trying to make a run for Cat 5. Gaming with Trippin H mentions it's wiggling towards more south a bit, it seems. Let's look at the latest imagery on here. I'm not so sure about that. Let me look in the longer loop here. I don't think so. I think it's still moving to the west-northwest there. Yeah, you can see its track there. I don't think it's wobbling to the south. Alright, let's see what other questions. Ragasa become a Category 5? It can. Currently only forecasting a high-end Cat 4, but this could be conservative. And I'm purposely trying to say that way because I'm not sure how this structure will evolve over the coming 2 days or so. It could fail horribly, and it could be just locking itself in endless eyewall replacement cycles, or it could try to stay a very tight pinhole core by the time it's meandering towards the Luzon Strait. So there's two extremes out of this, I think. I'm trying to stay conservative until I have more confidence. Gaming with Trippin H, what is the Philippine word for, or like, what does Ragasa mean in the Philippines? Cat mentions, is there any historical precedent for this? Let's take a look at that. I will pull up something called historical, or it's NOAA's hurricane tracks. Things like that, and we can take a look if there's any historical storms that are just like this. Now I know it's gonna pull me up to Japan, so I'm gonna let that load. This is called NOAA's Historical Hurricane Tracks, by the way. It's a pretty good website if you want to see if something's happened before. Okay, it'd be real nice if this loaded, but here, I will highlight the area where this system is going. I'll include it in between Taiwan and northern Luzon there. Okay, there, now it loads that, but no, it don't mean that. Okay, let me get out of that. Okay, what I meant to select, and now I can't even see it. Let me just do something like this. Something like right here. Honestly, even just Category 5s, there have been a lot of Category 5s to move through there. But if we take a look at, there's been at least 33 Category 5s in this region, and including Category 4s, that brings up the total to 96. So these kind of storms have happened a lot, and even if we go to major typhoons in this region, around 144. But now if we become more specific here, and if we, let's say, focused on parts of the Babuan group of islands here, if I include something like this, and if we see how many of them have a landfall happening here. Dina, let's see, what year, 1965, did make a Category 5 landfall on one of the Batanes Island, or Babuan group of islands. And this storm right here, which is Sally 1964, also made a Category 5 landfall on the Babuan group of islands. Now, if we take a look at the, oops, let me bring that. If we look at Category 4s as well, because this could be a Cat 4, and we expand that, we have another storm here, which this one would be Clara 1981, makes landfall as a Cat 4. And another storm, Clara, also makes a secondary landfall as a Cat 4 there. And also this storm right here, Doksuri, this was recent, 2023, yeah, that made a landfall as a Cat 4 there. So this has happened before, and I believe this storm, Ellen, 1983, also made landfall as a Category 4. Now, if we go to the Batanas Islands here, and we're more specific, let's see, let's include these islands and see how many Category 5s have made landfall in this region. There have been, it looks like 3 Category 5s here. There was Virginia in 1957, 2 Cat 5 landfalls there. We have Moranti 2016, I believe that's the most recent one. And we also have, this looks like a miss actually. Shanthu 2021 actually is the most recent one. Looks like its eye most likely passed over one of those islands. So it's not unprecedented that this has happened before. And also Category 4s, there have been a good amount of Cat 4s that have made landfall, with Knoll 2015 being the most recent. And looking at major typhoons, still Shanthu being the most recent one to impact those islands. And if we look, I do want to pull up the most recent one to impact the Babuin group of islands. I believe it's going to be Doksuri. Yep, Doksuri and Naysats. Those are the 2 most recent. Oh, whoops. Now let me actually do this first. That's in Nanmadol, so they've been hit recently. But yes, this isn't completely out of the ordinary, so there is historical precedent for this. Sorry. Mr. Peach says Josh Morgerman is headed to the Philippines right now. Yep, I saw that, and I wish him luck on this. He may be playing Island Roulette with us, so. Will this strengthen into Hagabit? I don't know what you're saying with that one. Alright, will Neoguri become a Category 4 or nearing Cat 5 at Super Typhoon strength? It is completely possible. I would not rule that out. It is going to, if it moves to the northeast, it's going to be having a jet interaction there, which could really help it intensify. Already now it's beginning to rapidly intensify, so I wouldn't rule out a Cat 4 peak or greater. We saw on the German run here how quickly it intensifies, and if it just stalls there, and if there's enough oceanic heat content for it, which I'm not quite sure about, let's take a look at that actually, to see how good are the waters for this storm. Whoa, okay. Yeah, 30 degrees Celsius waters. What about tropical cyclone heat potential? Decent, not great, but there still is the potential for it to quickly intensify, but upwelling if it stalls over the same area. That's going to cool the waters and try to weaken it. But yeah, I can see Cat 4, Cat 5 out of it if everything goes right for it. Typhoon Lover mentions the fact that 96E has fallen off. Yes, that is. It could have briefly been a tropical cyclone, I'm not sure. And then, thankfully, it's not really impacting anywhere. Its remnant moisture, I don't think, is expected to really impact anywhere either. Like Mario's remnant moisture was impacting the southwestern United States. 97E, though, may become a decent hurricane. Mackenzie asks if Gabrielle will become a major hurricane. I do think that is certainly a possibility. It is going to also be having a jet interaction, and I can pull that up on here. Oops, wrong storm. I'm so focused on Ragasa, Ragasa. Wait, no, Ragasa. Sorry. Just trying to memorize the pronunciation. Here we go. And I'll go to a farther zoomed out run. But yes, the half-say model does have it becoming a Cat 4 actually, in the next 60 hours or so. So the system could try to rapidly intensify starting in the next 24 hours and do that through the next 60 or just 72 hours. So mainly the next 1 to 3 days is when it could rapidly intensify. And when it moves out to the northeast, it is going to be having that jet interaction. If I looked at a zoomed out view of it, you can see it right through here, this jet stream right there, really helping it out to intensify. You can see all those colors start lighting up when it moves to the northeast there, so we could see it intensify pretty dramatically there. Right, so there's going to be, let's see, this is going to be your upper level anticyclone and your upper level low right here, right next to one another. Could see some shear out of that actually. We'll see. And there it goes. Okay. Let's see, I'm curious when does it have it becoming a post-tropical cyclone? Looks like it may still be a tropical cyclone within 5 days from now. Alright. Yeah, I can see that happening. So if we look at satellite imagery, yeah, that's definitely tropical. And then there it is, becoming that major hurricane, possibly Cat 3, Cat 4. We'll see if it tries to intensify dramatically. That's a pinhole eye, by the way. Typhoon Lover asks, will the depression in the North Indian Ocean be named Shakti? I think that's how you pronounce it. I doubt it. They haven't named anything that likely deserved a name. Here's the system, by the way. The sun's risen over it, so we can take a closer look if you'd like. Oops, meant to do other regions here. And if we take a look at the visible satellite imagery here and we really zoom in, let's see if we can see a circulation in here. Can't really see it on here, but scatterometer pass did confirm that it did have a low-level circulation, and the convection is still firing up. Also looks like Neoguri here has a eye now on visible. Yep, doing well. Let me just make sure the whole thing isn't cut off on the side. Okay, good. Yep, so I mean, this storm's also doing pretty well. Both of them are trying to rapidly intensify, both Neoguri and Ragasa. Alright, let's get to the other questions here. Me tag. Okay, yes. Thank you for your help with that. Mackenzie asks if the Western Pacific system will be impacting Manila. Let's look at that system and let's look at the ensembles on here. So let's go to sea surface temperatures and we go to the Western Pacific and we zoom in at around this region right here. And let's get a loop of it. You'll notice where Ragasa is going there, and you'll notice this other system here. And if you notice, Manila does get in on most of those ensembles there. So that is a possibility. This will be happening within the next week or so, some sort of low meandering towards the central Philippines. This is just one model here, and if we take a look at Google AI's model on it for comparison, staying generally around the same with Manila in that center of where it could impact. So again, we'll see. We'll see how this verifies. But again, giving it around a 40% chance of development over the next 7 days. Tara mentions that looks like Nando CEO is expanding more vertical heat towers. Let's look at that on infrared imagery. Oh shoot, is this still not working? Okay, it is. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can see it. It's expanding. Its CDO is what we call central dense overcast here. It's basically its main rain shield or main core around the eye wall. I guess not its exact core, but mainly it's just intense rainfall rates, or at least moderate rainfall rates around it. It's kind of like an outer core, you could say. But yeah, you can see that expanding in size Earlier, this was just a major convective burst wrapping around it. So, of course, that's going to fizzle out. And then we can see these vertical heat towers, basically convective burst of thunderstorms wrapping around the center there, continuing to expand its size to make room for that eye to start clearing out. Um, let's see, Santa Ana already got impacted by Mangkhut in 2018. Next name in the Philippines is Opong. Okay. Impel 2.0. Neoguri, if it will certain or somewhat or somehow enter the Philippine area of responsibility. Let's see. I think where's the Philippine area of responsibility? I think it doesn't include Taiwan. I think it does. Here, I'm gonna look at this off stream. Sorry about that. Oh wait, no. I think it's on here. Oh yeah, it could enter the Philippine area of responsibility here if it just meanders right through here. I could see that happening. It makes a run for that. So 135 uh, east there, and that is at around, I guess, 25 degrees north. 25, 135. Let's look at where the icon model takes it. It takes it through 135 right there. But that's at around 26 degrees north, so just barely to the north of it. Doesn't quite get into it. Yeah, by the time it's at around 25 degrees north, it's moving northwest. And looking at the other models, maybe the European ensembles will show something different about that. Oh shoot, let me actually pull up the European ensembles on this. So it'd be 135 and 25, so that'd be right around here. This mark right here. So yeah, I can, oops, my bad. Right around here. So yeah, I can see it entering the Philippine area of responsibility, so we could see it getting a name from the Philippines. Paolo, okay. Expunge asks if a Category 4 peak is possible. Definitely out of this. I feel like that's the most likely scenario. Out of this, a high-end Category 4 super typhoon out of this. Any red dots you see here, that is a Category 4 being forecasted at that point, and these are 12-hour points, so it may remain a Cat 4 for over 36 hours. Let's see, Mackenzie asked if there's any updates on the South Indian Ocean. Let's look at the AI model and see what it's showing. If it's sniffing out any sort of signals down there. Since we are getting closer to their season. Let's see, here's the remnants of 93S meandering to the west, and then beyond that, briefly seeing a circulation form there, but nothing really too tight. I don't see anything happening there. What I do notice, though, is the North Indian Ocean has a little disturbance there from that North Indian Ocean system. And then potentially consolidates into a tropical cyclone beyond the 10-day range there when it enters western India. Looks like it combines with an, I don't know. No more storms for now in the Southwest Indian Ocean. Yes, thankfully, it's getting a little bit of a break there. Oops, sorry, scrolling through the comments. There's a lot. Okay. If you have any questions about your local impacts that you could receive, like a specific town or family in a certain area, you can always ask and I will gladly answer. I think, okay. You know what? I'm going to include this right here. I'm going to include this banner right there at the top, just because we're getting a lot more people watching. Norte? Norta? Norta. Is that how you pronounce it? Class suspension. Yep, okay. Oh, Typhoon Lover mentioned something that's going to be releasing on on Sunday. That will be my. I'll pull it up briefly, just see if I can find it. To just in case, trying not to plug, but I do these live streams for a bit, so um, just bear with me for a moment as I share with you all. Let me see if I can share this. Yes, just this monstrosity that will be releasing on Sunday, or in 38 hours or so. So Sunday at noon Eastern time, and this would be probably Monday at midnight for you all in the Philippines. This is going to be the Western Pacific Hypothetical Typhoon Season animation, and you might see something interesting with Ragasa in this animation. Just going to give you like a little hint that you may want to pay attention to that storm. Um, not I have not mentioned really much in the Discord, whatever. Just for those who tuned into the live stream, letting you know that there may have been an interesting forecast about Ragasa in this animation. Um, and some of the things that happen in the animation is why I'm a little bit worried about this storm. Just coincidentally, kind of following some sort of similar similar of where it's going to. Um, anyways, just something to shout out. Now, let's get back into the impacts. Thank you for bearing with me on that. Just thank you for mentioning that, Typhoon Lover, CeeLo. Mitchy Boy, welcome back. I remember you from, and I remember also most of you there who were talking. I'm concerned why the GFS is predicting around 25 inches of rain in Metro Manila. Now, the reason for that, you probably all know that, it's due to the monsoon. Here's the latest run. But yeah, you can see this moisture here moving to the northeast, causing heavier rainfall rates along western Luzon there, and it does include parts of Metro Manila. To the northwest of Metro Manila, there could be totals of 450 millimeters or greater, whereas Metro Manila, at least on this run, gets 150 millimeters of rain. But if this shifts just a little bit more to the east, you could be talking about devastating rainfall totals for parts of Metro Manila. Very bad flooding. I believe this may happen in a pretty short amount of time. Let's look at the daily rainfall rates. First day gets in at around 30 millimeters of rain. Looking at the next day, around 30 to 40. Next day at around 30. The next day at around 60. And then the next day here, whoa, these are high rainfall totals. This is around 300 millimeters of rain. So this is around over 10 inches. This is probably a foot of rain happening in a day, which that could bring devastating flooding, especially if it happens over a more populated area like Metro Manila, and there's not a whole lot of places for the water to go. Even minor rain showers can cause flooding there. So talking about a foot of rain in a day, 300 millimeters of rain in a day could be devastating for those areas. Typhoon Haima, but a more northern track. I don't know about that one. I'll search it up. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I see it. I'll pull it up, because why not? Okay, so it became a Cat 5 officially, looks like, yep. Wow, okay, it slammed into northern Luzon. So yeah, similar track in the short term where it's going. A little bit more to the north there, and then a little bit more to the west. So they kind of have like a little bit of a cross as to where it's going. It's a little bit to the south, and then it will be a little bit more to the north, potentially where it will make landfall. Yeah, that's a good observation. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, Gaming with Trippin H, thank you for answering my question there about a Ragasa. Ragasa is a Filipino word that means fast moving, or we use the word when it's related to floods. Example is, okay, which means the flood is rapidly moving. Wow, okay, I thought that the name, it was a badass name. That's kind of why I would do my hypothetical with that. But yeah, okay, it makes sense why a storm with that name would do so well. Mitchy Boy mentions, I'm in Manila right now. We're probably not getting signal warnings here, but I'm concerned that the damage might be concentrated south within the most populated areas like Manila. I do believe that a signal 1 warning may be issued for you. This system is going to have a rather large wind field. I can't stress that enough. It's going to be a pretty large system, not too crazy, but it is going to be on the larger side, I'd say. Ooh, is a new model run? Oh wait, never mind. Okay. Where you could see some tropical storm force gust happening in parts of Manila there, but you could see some gusty winds happening, at least on the northern half of Luzon there. And if we take a look at, I like to use 850 millibars to kind of show the gust that could happen. You could see some tropical storm force gust near for Manila there. Typhoon force gusts look to happen in southern Taiwan there, in parts of Guangdong province, parts of far northern, that would be Luzon there. And then moving west there, typhoon force gusts happening along Guangdong province. If we look at a more zoomed in look, you can see that purple, which for me mostly means typhoon force gust. Okay, this looks so wonky for some reason. Just anyways, um, typhoon force gusts happening for parts of Hong Kong and majority of Guangdong province, but it will weaken. So I wouldn't be surprised if a signal 1 warning gets issued for Manila. It's a pretty broad system. Tuguri, the Vietnamese productions mentions Ragasa is obviously going to explode. Yeah, I think that's pretty certain, pretty set in stone, that it's going to try to reach Category 4 or 5 status. The environment is very conducive, and you know what? I'm gonna touch over that more, explain more about the environment. Let's go to where it is right now, and let's briefly discuss its environment. This is a little bit earlier. We can see that there is some northerly shear here. We're mainly going to be focusing on these two things right here, which shows us where's the shear coming from. This is mostly northwesterly wind shear coming from the northwest. Pretty much that's what was making it lopsided earlier. Now, if we go to where it is roughly right now, earlier it was showing at around 11 knots of wind shear. Right now it's down to 9 knots, which is very low. Which is, I'd say low, and not necessarily very low, but pretty low. And if we look at 12 hours from now, that value goes down to 5 to 9 knots, so that is very low. At that point, it is very low. That will be within the next 12 hours, and going on into 24 hours, we'll see here, it increases somewhat there. You can see now up to around 13 knots. Then going even further in time to around, this would be 36 hours out from now. Shear at around 15 knots or so. I think if we focus more on the center, will that do better? Nope. So it will have to deal with some shear. Then if we go to 48 hours from now, back to low shear, 5 to 11 knots. So we'll get into a slight road bump. Not too bad, though. 15 knots isn't too bad of shear for a system like this. And then if we go beyond that, this is around hour 60. Wind shear starts to increase. You can see that northeasterly wind shear of around 21 knots. This is when we're starting to get into the moderate shear territory, not low anymore. And if we go further in time, this would be around 72 hours, so 3 days from now. Oh, whoa, whoops. I think that's because I'm including Taiwan in that. Is that why it doesn't want to cooperate? Yeah, okay. Let me do a little bit of a closer zoom. Let me just try this. At this point, it's low shear on this, around 5 to 9 knots as well. It stays lower shear here, and if we go beyond that, this is around 84 hours out from now. Let's see if I can do a full view on here. Starting to increase there, again, from the easterly shear, 15 knots. Then we go beyond that. This would be 96 hours out. Higher shear there on the eastern side and northeastern side. That's why you can see the northern side pretty much busted open. And then we go beyond that here. And let's go into the let's see where this would be 108 hours from now. And the shear should continue to rise there. Yeah, 23 knots of shear tearing apart the system. And then if we go to the very last frame of it, and we take a look at what the shear's like on here, 14 to 18 knots. So it's not favorable during that. So it's going to be very favorable in the beginning. It's going to be very favorable right now, and then it's going to get a little bit worse before then becoming very favorable again. And then by the time it starts entering the Luzon Strait and the South China Sea, it could begin to become unfavorable. The HAFS model, though, does have it staying pretty organized here in the South China Sea, even has it peaking there. Now, something I want to note, though, is this is going to be a major problem here. These eye wall replacement cycles. Notice how there's two eye walls here, two cores. This could disrupt the system and make it a broader system. You'll notice that the wind field dramatically expands after that. You see it stays relatively small before then growing in size. That is due to that eye wall replacement cycle increasing its wind field size. I believe we could see it even on something like this. Not too much, actually, on here. But it will increase the range of its impacts there as it develops a larger eye wall, which could pose more of a threat to parts of Hong Kong, because even if it just skims the coast, they could get impacts, pretty strong winds, at least typhoon force gust. Let's see what else. Mitchy Boy mentions if the forecast comes to fruition, where almost 25 inches of residual rain will be dumped south of Ragasa. See, the thing is here, the Batanes is known to survive Cat 5s because, of course, the population is small, but their homes are made of rocks that can withstand Cat 5 storms. Yes. Let's see here. Question, is there a chance that it will hit Super Typhoon on Sunday before landfall in the Batanes? Looking at Sunday, let's see. Sunday is going to be, just doing some quick mental math here, the 20th, so that would be my Saturday. If I go to 20th at 8 p.m., that would be your Sunday morning. And if I go even to Sunday nights and Sunday around midnight, I don't think so. It's not going to make landfall on Sunday. See what else. Zen mentions, hey HCC, I was late. Anyways, I see some models that possibly another storm next week. Yes, I'll briefly go over that again. Here's a look at the Google AI model here, showing a tropical storm, potentially typhoon developing, impacting the Philippines there. It's a little bit far out to determine how favorable the environment might be, how strong it gets. We already know the waters are warm, so let's see if it will take advantage of that. Here, the upper level pattern isn't that favorable, at least on the European AI model. You can see this system, perfect upper level anticyclone over it, causing it to really intensify. Whereas this system, it's in between an upper level low there and an upper level anticyclone. It's in between the two, which will shear it some. As it gets more located towards that upper level anticyclone, it may see a little bit favorable environments. But generally a lot more shear than what this system's going through. Right now, there it is. Alright, let's see. Kat asks, what do you think Gabrielle will do once it goes extratropical? Could it be a problem for Iceland or the United Kingdom eventually? That's a good point, because it may not be out to sea entirely. Let's look at the forecast here. When it becomes post-tropical, it may swing towards Iceland there, potentially as a powerful post-tropical system. Could impact, this would be the best run, I think, where it just meanders near Spain and Portugal as a very weak low. Doesn't even have gales at that point. If we look at the American run also has a similar setup there where it doesn't really impact land that badly. If we look at the Canadian run here, the Canadian run swings it towards Ireland. Very close call there. Impacts the Azores Islands as a typhoon, hurricane. Likely post-tropical at that point. No, that may be a tropical cyclone. Let me look at what it looks like on satellite. That could be a hurricane making landfall in the Azores Islands, at least on this run. We'll see. That would be interesting. And then if we look at the German run here, mainly misses Iceland there, so we'll see how strong it gets, or how close it will get as well to those areas. Hopefully it is able to do like a track like this where it misses everywhere. Um, there's a lot of ocean that it could miss land. Let's hope it does. Oh, and it does start forming that other system. I'm okay. I may have to make a post about it. Wow. Okay, it's already 10 o'clock. Don't worry, guys. I see your most recent questions. I'm just trying to get to I get to the people who ask the questions the earliest. Okay. Can we see the Habagat rain accumulation? What does that mean? I don't know what that term means. Southwest monsoon. Oh, okay. I thought you were guys mentioning a typhoon. Okay. Yes. Yes, you definitely could with this system. If we take a look at where it's expected to be, let's see if I can pull up a model run here. Yes, look at how the winds shift here. Let me go back, or I'll refresh it so it's less laggy. If we show where the winds are right now, there isn't much of a monsoon there impacting the Philippines. The rain's mostly going to the north, north and northeast, pretty much. If we go in a day from now, we can start to see it shift to the northeast, getting that southwesterly monsoon. Another day from now, you can see those stronger winds starting to impact parts of Manila and parts of Mindoro. So yes, that's what the system will do. You can see its broad influence here. Low pressure right here causing everything to funnel in and around it. And it just so happens that Manila is going to be on the southwestern side of it. Bro, that thumbnail's curse ASF. Okay, I guess. Um, Ooh, Mammerds, I remember you. How about Southern Isabella in Luzon? I believe in terms of rainfall. Let's take a look at that over the next 5 days. I believe Isabella's going to be right here, I think. The European run on it shows totals of around 50 or 30 to 50 millimeters, or actually, hold on, let me get a better estimate. Around 40 to 80 millimeters of rainfall on during the next 5 days. The American run has around 25 to around 70 millimeters of rain. The German run has lower totals of around 15 to 20 millimeters of rain. And does the access model show here? Yes, it does. The access model only shows around 10 to 20 millimeters of rain. So not a whole lot. You should be mostly fine there. But wind may be a concern. Let's see, Andrew says, I think because of the sea conditions, Nando will intensify. And you know the start of La Nina, meaning cold ocean, more storms. Um, yeah, I feel like just the upper level pattern alone is great enough for this storm to quickly intensify, even if the waters weren't as warm. The warm waters definitely help. Tara says, looks like Nando's starting to intensify a lot faster. The dry air isn't intruding. Let's look at some of the dry air. Yep, you can see that dry air on the northwestern side, not really able to get in as much. You can see a little bit of dry air here on the western side and southern side of it. But really, it's in a very moist environment, and it's expanding on that northern side. You can see the outflow of it fanning out. It's fanning out in pretty much all directions. Very good to the south, starting to get even better to the north. Let's see. Sean says, hello. Is there two typhoons? Yes, there are. There are two typhoons. They are Typhoon Neoguri and Typhoon Ragasa, both of which could become major typhoons, likely to become Cat 3s or greater, both of which could make a run for Cat 4 or Cat 5. Neoguri could become a threat to Japan, or it could meander out to sea. It's uncertain. It's going to hit the fork in the road. Ragasa here is going to be impacting parts of the Philippines. And yes, Tropical Storm Gabrielle is in the Atlantic. Will you cover the 11 a.m. tropical bulletin when Pagasa releases it? Probably not. I need to go to sleep soon to do a beach cleanup tomorrow. I'm in the United States, so it's 10 p.m. for me, and I have to wake up at like 6 a.m. Um, so yeah. Sean asked if Gabrielle is going to become a hurricane. I'd say very likely to become a hurricane. Could become a Cat 3 or Cat 4. Can't rule that out. The official forecast does get it to Cat 2. Potentially Cat 3 in between these 2 points. Likely on Monday night into Tuesday morning when it could become a Cat 3 or so. We'll see, it could even peak before that. Depends on how quickly it gets organized. Cat says Rip Zoom Earth radar feature. At least Windy has a radar feature. That's very helpful. Yeah, and you can see the remnants here, the tropical depression moving further inland. Let me see if I can go. I'm probably going to buy Windy Premium, because this is very helpful, having a very large archive of radar imagery. Anyways, we can see some of those. It's just does not want to work. Okay. Yeah, you can see some of those thunderstorms there. A lot of thunderstorms in that southern band, that shrimp. Okay, geez, alright. Don't have to pop that up multiple times, but yeah, some of those thunderstorms, they're not really impacting the Philippines just yet, thankfully. Of course, Mamwords. And remember, if you're liking the stream, be sure to subscribe. Andrew asked if there's a chance that Signal 3 will be raised in Benguets. Sorry, I don't know where that is. I know that that's probably a province, so I'm going to search that up real quick. Sorry, just pulling up the Wikipedia map on it. I'd probably say Signal 1 to 2, most likely. Can't rule out Signal 3. It's unlikely, though, that Signal 3 would be issued. It could happen, though. I'm not gonna say for sure. I just don't think it's likely. Thank you. Thank you, Gaming with Trippin' H. And yeah, looks like that's generally most of the questions covered. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'd like to go over the top fans, which I don't know how this works. The top 5 are going to be. Now I'll do just the top 3 since everyone else is like tied. If I don't mention you, you're in the list of like the top. Okay, I can see you on here. But the top 3 are Cats with 100 XP. Second is Mac with 125 XP, and then first is Gaming with Trippin' H with 150 XP. Thank you all so much for your support. Going over a brief overview again, one last time for those who are just tuning in. First off, I'm going to make sure there's no questions on my last YouTube stream. Just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, nothing on there, and I'm going to look at my posts that I've made. earlier, seeing if anyone had any questions there. Nope. Okay. Going over a brief overview right now. The next live stream will most likely be tomorrow night on Ragasa, and there may be a stream on. Wait, tomorrow's Sunday night. Okay. Huh. Hold on. Wait. No, tomorrow's Saturday night. Okay, sorry. Man, I'm so confused. This storm's been stressing me out. Um, so that will likely be the next update. I'm pretty confident that there's going to be a live stream tomorrow around the same length, around the same time as well. Is there any other time that works best for you all that you'd rather me do a live stream in? If you could please type in Philippine time. Andrew asked if there's a chance that it will go over Cagayan. Yes, Cagayan Valley's over. Or wait, hold on. Is it? Are you asking Cagayan Valley or Cagayan? Okay, the province. Yes, Cagayan Valley. Yes. Mainly in the province of Cagayan here. This cone of uncertainty, generally around 2/3 of the time, it will stay in that cone. So it looks there is a possibility it moves right through there into Cagayan. Alright, so the next stream will most likely be tomorrow. So don't worry, there will be more updates on these storms like Neoguri and that Western Pacific disturbance. So don't worry, you won't be caught off guard if you tune into the next stream. I will go over it more in depth because we'll have a greater idea of what's going to happen with it. Yeah, I should be. I'll see. It all depends on when it's going to be making landfall because I will try my best, depending on my classes and when it makes landfall. I will try my best to do a live stream on Monday. For it, or for you all, it might be Tuesday. Wait, no, it would have to be Monday, Monday night for you all probably. All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will keep you updated, and I will see you in the next update. Stay safe, okay? Because this is a really bad storm. Um, and it does have the possibility to deliver extreme or catastrophic impacts. So just please take this seriously. Make sure people are aware of this if they are in the path, including Hong Kong and Guangdong province, eastern Taiwan, and the northern Philippines. Well, thank you all so much for watching. And I will see you in the next update. Stay